3, 2. What's up, Jenn? How you doing?
I'm well, how are you?
All right. So, hey, folks, this is Jenn, the artist, but right now we're gonna talk about a different type of art, and this art deals with the world of active addiction. So, Jenn, my first question to you is, in your observation, has active addiction gotten, well, I shouldn't say better or worse, obviously it's gotten worse. I guess the question is, do you feel like there's enough out there to help those that are maybe looking for help in your travels, in your experience?
I have quite an opinion on that, but I don't know enough politics where I feel like I could comment without coming off pretty ignorant to it. I mean, I could share like my
Give me an example.
So, okay.
And by the way, in this here, we're controversial.
Okay.
There's room for that.
Right. So may or may not be wrong. I don't know if there was something that changed with health insurance to where like when I first got clean, there was not medication assisted therapy.
Okay.
There is, hey, if that is what gets you on the right path, fine. But I feel like there's more of that that's allowed, and just the structure of even halfway houses that I used to be at, they're not as structured. And mind you, COVID happened, so like there's not, I talked with a halfway house that they hadn't left for like over a month, and because of the technical difficulties, it was difficult for them to find meetings on Zoom. So it's like a month with addicts in detox with no message, whether they have heard about it or not. It's just like there are so many barriers that I feel like is making it difficult to reach people, but also with what is available. For example, for women, no offense, Blake, you are not a woman. However, if you needed to find a women's facility, a women's halfway house, if you needed to find a men's halfway house, a sober house, you got so many to choose from. Like some of the beds in there are empty. But if you're looking for a women's facility, I feel like there is a lack of that. To where like an organization that I work for, we have to send people out of state to like safe homes for other reasons, but sometimes it's because like there's nothing available.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like that statement about there not being enough help for women is no different than this being a man's world and controlled and dominated by, and you're the female, so you're subjugated to whatever's left over? Does he feel like that falls along the lines of there's not enough for us in general?
I mean, I think it goes both ways actually, but also with women, sometimes comes children, sometimes comes pregnancy, and I don't know policies and what's accepted and what's not. That's what I mean, like I'm ignorant to it. It's like I can sit here and be like, oh my God, there's not enough for women, but I don't know what comes with that. Like if a woman gets pregnant, do you kick her out? Do you let her stay there? What about all of those resources? So I feel like it's both. Is it worse or better? Is it worse for women, better for men? Just because there's a sober house open doesn't mean the quality of it is great for men. So I don't really know much about that. I know that there's more offered, but it's just like if it's a halfway house or a sober house that like literally just wants you to pay rent and be on your way and doesn't implement anything for change and just wants money, like that's no better either.
Okay, so as it relates to, I want to tie that into the addiction aspect of it. Obviously, there are more and more people involved in drug addiction, and they're younger and younger, getting caught up today. It's in our music.
Oh yeah.
It's in our culture. America, as from my perspective, is the epitome of the drug culture. It's on our flat screens.
Glorified.
It's right. It's glorified. And if we know the history of drug laws, the Negro cocaine fiend from 1914, that stereotyped the black man as being the epitome of the drug abuser, which set the tone for the laws that continue for the next 100 years. So from that perspective, okay, it's always going to be like this. We're always going to have these problems, which on one hand, it kind of, without sounding dismissive, okay, we're always going to have this problem, so let's just move on. Mm-hmm. But no, we don't just move on.
No.
We deal with it.
Right.
So I guess from that perspective, it's like, well, what do we do? It's almost like, okay, as one of my friends that said, there's no profit in the cure. So if there's no profit in the cure, then what the fuck are we doing?
I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. That's why I said we can't be controversial.
Right.
We have to be.
Right. So you're talking about music and culture and norms, just because, like, if you look at the definition of the norm or what's normal, it means that there is a larger percentage of more people engaging in something. If we're talking about actions, a larger percentage of people who are engaging in that activity or in that interest or topic, whatever it may be, versus people who are not. So that norm is defined by numbers, and as cliche as it seems, we were talking about how, like, sometimes people suck. Majority of the time, we hate people, even though we don't. But for me, it's my inability to accept people for where they're at. For example, I can look at somebody who has a viewpoint on something that I don't agree with, right? But it doesn't matter what I say because that person's mind is made up because that's how they grew up, right? I'm not saying it's like can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? But okay, where is the fight? The fight is in the younger generations, because that's when our brain is more open to things, right? Where we can sit there and we can try and, like, go against the issue right now and fight and fight and fight and be less likely to change somebody's mind versus influencing the following generation, who can then influence the following generation. So, like, especially with active addiction, majority of the time, I didn't know how to deal with feelings. That was a big thing, and not because my parents were just like, feelings are feelings, you don't deal with them. It's that they didn't know better. So that's what I learned, and then look where it got me, enough to break the cycle. So I have a feelings chart, and, like, I can identify my feelings and I can learn more into where it stems from. Not everybody has that opportunity, but that's where we break the cycle, so that if I were to have children, I could do my best to then pass that forward. And I think that, like, elders, right, don't look down for influence majority of the time. It's not an ego thing. It's just that, like, that generation is the leaders. They're supposed to be the leaders. But yet younger generations look to that, whether they want to go against it or not. Why not go more towards the younger generation? Because they're looking at us to guide. They're looking at us to lead by example.
You think they're looking at us to guide? Really? Here's why I'm interjecting.
I mean, younger.
Okay, all right. Okay.
You know, younger, like the youth.
The youth. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Which might sound.
They're different than my youth. They're a lot more tech savvy. They're a lot more hip, aware, and
hyper focused.
Yes, hyper focused.
And addicted to technology. That's number one.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I just know that this is my viewpoint, okay?
Drop it.
Everybody. Oh, you don't even know, Blake. I found Jesus since the last time I saw you. So, like, I am just like, I'm not who I was, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and like push religion and tell and like do all that. No, it's not about like telling other people you're wrong or this or that. It's loving people. Like literally, I'm supposed to, if I really want to follow Jesus, my thing is to love people. Not to sit there and point fingers and to shame and to judge and do all of those things. And there's like this big misconception as to what it is. It's like, I don't think I'm better than everybody else because I now found Jesus. It's, I'm not better than anybody else. We're all born with that emptiness. So this is where it ties in with addiction, right? Because we talk about in the literature that we're born with this void, right? I'm now learning in biblical terms that like we are born with a condition of sin versus it being like, oh, we're just born into a life of sin or we're born into an action of sin. No, everybody, it's all fair game, fair game. We are empty and we are looking to something, somewhere to fill our emptiness, our condition of sin, whatever it might be. Even if, because you hear about it in an active addiction, even if you see somebody that comes from a family who like loved them, right? They can still gear towards drugs. Like no one is disqualified. So I'm saying that nobody's better, nobody's worse. Mm-hmm. We are all at the same level of worthiness, so to speak, if you want to compare it to God and religion. But even in NA, a higher power.
Yeah.
I disconnected or didn't connect because I never felt worthy enough of love. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I realized that, no, I'm not worthy enough. None of us are. However, I'm still loved. And bro, when I surrendered and when I had that spiritual thing, it changed everything. It changed my desires. I think the last time we talked, like, there's always been this behavior of mine to seek validation. Mm-hmm. So I'm clean now, right? Does that mean I'm not an addict? No, it means I'm not actively using drugs. It means I'm still seeking elsewhere. Mm. So
that's called perspective. Perspective helps people grow. It gives other people on the outside looking in, well, wait a minute, let me take a look at that, whatever that is. And it also creates an atmosphere where others can sit and join and feel comfortable because there's a perspective that's refreshing. It's not the run of the mill. So
there are so many issues and there's always going to be issues, but it's like, I just see a lot, we're talking about like, is active addiction or are addicts, like, is it getting any better, right? Or like, what about making resources available? I think a lot for like, I can think about a family member I have, that shame and that guilt keeps her out there. Because that's what she's surrounding herself with, and that's what she's feeding herself. However, like, the one thing I knew how to do instead of telling her, you need to go here, you should go, what about treatment? No, I just answer the phone and tell her that I love her, and I have a better relationship with her now. Do I condone her behavior? I know she's worth better than that, but I also remember being at a place where I felt so much shame and I felt so much guilt where I wouldn't get help for myself, or when I didn't want to reach out and ask for help because look at where I am in my life, who would help me? It's like going back to that perspective. I call it my pre-Jesus, and like, hey, call it like a pre-awakening, whatever makes you feel more comfortable, right? But for me, before pre-Jesus, I was just like so oblivious as to what I was feeding into, where like, we can try and change the future by moving up towards the leaders, but I find that it's like guiding the ones who will listen. And no, it might not just be youth, but that's what I'm really learning. It's like,
can I ask you a question?
yes.
Have you ever walked sat, listened to a person or people that are knee deep in their drug addiction?
Mm-hmm.
My reason for asking that is it's so much of a different feel when you say, I came from that, you return to that with a different perspective based on your living conditions. And you sit amongst that, say, wow, I came from this stuff. And the only reason why I'm asking this question is because I won't say it's removed from the conversation, I just don't hear it from people. So as you were talking, I was visioning something in that regard. So that's what compelled me to ask you if you have sat amongst people in active addiction. I have. I don't do it on a regular basis, but on a regular basis. And so some know me, even though the faces change very quick. Very quick. But like the engagement center, I went down there, I went in, signed up, went in because I wanted to see what it was like. And it's kind of just what I figured. Just a holding facility, or not a holding facility, but a holding facility. And I talked to one or two of the people that work there. And you know what I got out of that? The Band-Aid on a bullet wound, Jen. And Blake hates Band-Aids on bullet wounds because they don't work.
Right, they cover it up.
I hate it. So that's where that came from as you were talking.
There's no healing. We need healing.
I agree.
Because how else could we sit where we sit if we're not in the process, or at least attempting to heal from what keeps us either going back out or what keeps us using. Trauma is trauma. There's no, just because like I have trauma doesn't mean that it would be necessarily traumatic for you, but like belittling or like not acknowledging things for what they really are, that just, we're not dealing with anything. We're just putting Band-Aids on. Right.
Hey folks, just so y'all know that this conversation is for everybody. Okay, so when you do see this, please feel free to comment. And this is how we engage in things and opens up other people's ideas about things and possibly change their perspective or add to what they already have. Do not be shy, because if you can identify, you're a part of the potential solution.
And it's also, you don't have to have come from a place of addiction.
Great point. I like
engage in this conversation, because we, like all of us, when I say we, I don't mean a fellow addict or a fellow Christian, or it's us. Like, we're supposed to help each other. And I know for me, like I had so much guilt and shame, like I didn't need anybody. Like, great, you can add that on and like judge me and whether or not I know, but like when I try and help people from a point of being empathetic, whether I've personally had myself in those shoes or not, all I can do is lead by example, and to not sit there and like sound like I'm blowing smoke up their ass.
Yeah.
But it's just like literally all I can do. All I can do.
Ninth letter of the alphabet. Y'all listening?
Right. All I can do is use my voice that I have.
That's right. Use it.
Am able to speak with that voice. And to use words for good, not for shaming someone else or judging. Like, this is a broken world. There doesn't need to be more brokenness added. And I feel like words can kind of be thrown around sometimes.
They are.
Without thinking about what is actually coming from it.
How long you been clean, Jen?
I will have 6 years in October.
6 years in October. Okay.
And I will also just say, I learned a lot doing step work. And even when you met me for the first interview 9 months ago, I was so broken. Like, I can't stress how broken I was. The stigma of even mental health. What does major depressive disorder look like, right? Does it look like someone who's laughing? Like, quit it with the stigmatizing. Because I was very broken and I was in so much pain. And like, I don't know how much longer I would have been able to live clean by just knowing and learning and feeling frozen to not apply what I'm learning. Because it's only with application, right? I can say I know my worth, but do I feel my worth? No. And my actions are going to show that, to keep reinforcing how I really feel about myself. But when I had this awakening, I have never felt, I won't forget the date either, March 6th. I was in Haverhill.
Haverhill?
Haverhill. And I'm not gonna get like into it. I just know that something awoken within me, and I have not been the same ever since, in the best way possible. And like I said, if that hadn't happened, I hate to say this, but like I wouldn't be here. I probably would have taken my own life. Even though that's not what I wanted, I could not help but feel that way. It didn't matter the amount of meetings, the amount of step work, the amount of times I helped somebody else, the amount of times I called my sponsors, no matter how many events I spoke at, no matter what I was doing. And that's why I really stress the emptiness. Call it sin, call it void, call it emptiness, call it being a human being.
That's what we are.
Whatever. Right, we're human beings, not human doings. That's what I need to remember. But like, I don't know. I just know that like there's something I've been missing my entire life, and now I don't feel like I'm missing it. And it's something that's not tangible, but like the light in my eyes, the light in my heart, like the heaviness I had is gone. I have peace, I can sleep, all because I have a connection with a higher power, which I choose to call God, and I love Jesus. So you want to talk about music, what we feed our minds, what we watch on TV. When I tell you I'm a changed person, because like it was hip hop, R&B, Alicia Keys, just soul, pop, all these types of music. I only listen to Christian music now. I watch Bible studies on purpose. Even to just like, I feel like maybe because of how I used to view religion, I would just completely shut people off when I would hear Bible, God, all those things. Even if you want to take like the characteristics or the fruit of the Spirit, we can, okay, those are spiritual principles. If you want to even go to NA, you want to replace the word God with higher power. You want to replace the words fruit of the Spirit with spiritual principles. I'm just going to a different reference point to learn how to apply those now. And it's just walking a better way than what I was to fill my emptiness.
Jen, you're going to turn this into a singular interview. You know that, right?
Sorry.
Oh,
all right.
no, don't. No, but here's what I'm saying. I like when I hear what I'm hearing, because I think outside the box, and I'm thinking for other people as well, because if it's not attractive, it's just not attractive. But if it's attractive, then it's attractive. If it's a perspective, that I'm not used to, then I need to pay attention to it. Because when it becomes all inclusive in that regard or in certain aspects, then it's like, okay, the doors are opening because it's all inclusive. So by that, I'm saying that this could be a singular where I just pop this in and be like, hey folks, this is Jenn the artist, aka conversion time.
Right.
You know, and I know her.
Right.
No, but I'm just saying, but I'm not saying for that reason. I'm just saying the whole interview overall. I like it. Now, to go back 12 minutes ago, the active addiction part, or even when you mentioned the women and stuff like that, like, where do we go from here? Not here, but here, the bigger picture. Where do we go from here? Do you go to meetings, so you go to do your thing. Whatever you do, you go to do your thing. Whatever someone goes to do, they go to do their thing. Those are compartments. But the bigger picture is, okay, if it's active addiction, because that's part of my story, then what am I doing to contribute to bringing somebody out of that?
I'm so happy that you asked that.
I hate to say bringing somebody out because I can't save anybody. That's not my philosophy. But I've learned that when you listen to people, whether you have that background or not, people begin to feel, because there's something that you identify as a human being versus the titles that people like to wear, which is why I'm always on the outside looking in. I don't want to be a part of the system, quote unquote. You know, you look at all the recovery centers that are popping up all across the country, government funded. The first thing they want to know is what's your fucking insurance versus how can I help you? See, I have a problem with that because I think differently, I see differently, and I think strongly and I see strongly, and which is why I tend to be to myself, but I'm always observing, taking it all in. So when I open my mouth, I actually do know what I'm talking about, and I do have the information because I have the experience of being around people on both sides. So I'm speaking from what I know, not guesswork or maybes. And like I said, this can be controversial. Bring it on.
Yeah, like, and I see people that open up treatment facilities, and it's like, what are you wearing? How much did that cost? What is the motive? Because look at me, okay? These are from Primark. I don't know if you can see this shoe.
See him.
All right? These are coming out. All right? They're my work shoes. But I have a whole bunch of shoes, and I'm working on getting rid of them. I have paint all over me, and I get it. There's the cost of living, but like, what is the motive for living? Who are you serving? Like, there are questions, right? So you had asked one, like, what are we doing to contribute? And that's why I said, I'm so happy that you asked that. Shame and guilt, right? It can own us. That's why, it might prevent me from getting help or prevent me from sharing my story. Humility, right? It's not about what I think people might think about me when I say I used to be involved in the commercial sex trade. It is sharing my truth as a recovering addict and also a survivor from the commercial sex trade, and also whatever else I can identify with, and thinking about who I can help with my truth versus holding it in, not showing that it's possible to recover or get better or live a different life because I'm too afraid of what people might think. Like that fear prevented me from helping so many people that needed to see that it's possible. So I either speak for a few different organizations. I was on the news talking about being a survivor of the commercial sex trade. Like, I don't sit there and think, like, I wonder, like, what if what if my parents see this? Like, that's a valid one, you know? Like, I don't want to cause hurt to them if they ever see stuff like that. But the thing is it's like, I can't think about that. I have to think about the people still out there that don't have a voice or know that there's a better way possible. You know, and it's like that fear of being judged because of other human beings or because of how I was as a human being prevented me and kept me stuck for so long. Where it's like, what are we doing? Are we just sitting here like in our own organization helping other addicts who want help? Or are we raising awareness?
That's a very interesting statement. Helping other addicts who want help, or are we raising awareness? Ting!
Because I bet you anybody who knows anybody knows of somebody that's an addict.
Yeah.
Same thing with the commercial sex trade. You got OnlyFans. Like, I'm not even going to get into an opinion about that. However, it's so accessible. Sorry, I'm probably shaking the camera. It's so accessible where that is now going to be the norm. And whoever is not doing it, whoever you surround yourself is your norm. You're more apt to engage in that behavior, mindset, whatever, if you're around those people, as we know.
So let's go back to